All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Marco Alvarado. Today, we got the OG guest, the Moondog himself, the young pistol whipper, Quinn, the Moondog Kalani. How are you doing, man? It's been a long time. You're finally back on the show. You haven't been on the show since the last episode of season 1. It is now season 1.5, the quarantine days. And a lot has changed since we last spoke. I hope you're doing well.
You can't have a quarantine without a Q and a K, let me tell you. I'm doing good. I, just like yourself, am recently back mainland side.
Yeah.
And it has been a adjustment period. But quarantine with Quinn, quarantine with Marco, we're here now.
Yeah, we are. So how has the whole transition been? You said it's been quite an adjustment. In what ways has it been quite an adjustment?
There's a
Oh shit! You got a ghost too, apparently.
There's a in Hawaii. There is a sort of laissez-faire attitude about it. It had not hit to the degree that it hit everywhere else when I was there. From what I've been told now, things have changed and it's a bit more serious. But when I was there, there were still hella people in the streets, beach, ocean side.
Right.
People were enjoying the day, enjoying life.
Okay.
Here, not so much.
Yeah. So, yeah, here it's gone. People have responded pretty substantially, but you'd still see some people walking around, trying to live life as close to normal as possible. Do you have anything to speak on that? I see you have maybe some.
Yes. I go for a gentlemanly walk every morning, soak in the sun, get the blood pumping.
Right.
And I have been disgusted. Disgusted at the blatant disregard for the public safety by individuals of a certain shade, an ivory sort, that just seem to not give a shit about the rest of us. No mask, outside playing soccer, playing football. I believe that when
damn, a ghost. It's back.
I believe that when I first got back, I called you and I was walking in the park and I was stunned.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
So you're saying people with an ivory skin tone, you've noticed, have taken a more like you put it, laissez-faire approach to this whole pandemic ordeal. They're not responding to this in the same degree that you've seen maybe minority groups respond. Is that correct?
Yeah. I feel comfortable saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's any sort of white privilege or anything like that. I'm not making any point of it. It's just simply an observation.
Yeah, that is an interesting observation. I have noticed that people that are of more of a conservative mindset politically have responded by not necessarily taking this too seriously. Now, I'm not saying everybody who is conservative hasn't, because a lot of people who are conservative have taken it pretty substantially. Have taken it seriously substantially. That's what I meant to say. But the people who haven't, majority of them are conservative, which I found a little interesting. In certain respects. I don't know if you could talk anything up to that, but.
Well, I think it's it goes back to core principles, the individualism versus collectivism. Typically, the conservative is a bit more individually minded,
right?
While I guess you could say the more liberal folk out there tend to be more collectively driven, focused, and dependent.
That is true. That is true. I was just in a very progressive country, as we all know, Sweden. Um, I I know you have not visited that country yet. Maybe one day that'll change. But for the most part, you have been. I don't think you've ever been outside of the country, correct?
No.
So you've only been in America. What is interesting is now being a person who has lived in a different country, even though it was only like 2.5 months. And I've said it on the podcast, I believe already, but that place, it made me not want to come back here. like, uh, just dude, like I said on the last episode with Jonathan Noack of Alles was gesund ist, Swiss German podcast. Got to plug the boys show. But the businesses over there are geared towards making enough profit to grow. Enough, right? Businesses here, different. Their idea, what they try to do is get as much money possible under any circumstances. That's their goal. To grow at the highest rate, at the highest margin possible. Whereas in Sweden, it's a little different. Culturally, their beliefs, their principles are a little different. I find that to be very interesting. And you could see that business mentality permeate throughout the entire culture. It's not just, that's just the business side of Sweden. Like the Swedes have a saying, I forget how you pronounce it in Swedish, but it's basically them saying like, not too much, not too little. Like you want to be right in that Goldilocks zone with like everything. You don't want too much food. You don't want to overindulge, but you don't want to starve yourself, right? You want to be just right, just enough. And here in America, it's like, no, give me everything. Give me all. And I feel like that connects to the whole quarantine mindset that you're talking about. At least here in America, it's because people want to maximize their time as much as possible. They want to do things still. They don't want to necessarily, cave into fear, which I understand, but to a certain degree, you got to kind of think about everybody else at a certain point and kind of just, give the soccer a rain check, give maybe the group gatherings a rain check. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'm assuming you agree, but.
Well, I think it's interesting. It's much like it's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's a societal ecosystem, and all ecosystems must maintain a sense of balance to thrive. I think what you see in America is there isn't a sense of balance, and I think pushed by our capitalist mindset, how can we serve the individual?
Right.
I really think it's that simple. America is an individually driven nation. We're a meritocracy.
Right.
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
And I think that's coming to a head, and I think hopefully with this corona pandemic that people will start to realize that we're in this together, and the better off that the community is, the better off the individual is, because the community is made up of individuals.
Right. That is true. Now you did definitely see a pivot. Well, not pivot, but maybe people are starting to become more accepting of that collectivist mentality now, with Bernie Sanders becoming nearly this close at a certain point to becoming the nominee, until Bloody Monday happened, which I already covered on the Bernie Sanders recap podcast that I did, my rant, which was considered by many as a very depressing episode. And I apologize, but hey, that's the reality of the situation. But people are becoming more like coming around to the idea of at least not creating a collectivist society in America, but allowing collectivism to maybe influence some of our decisions. which I have found interesting because, I mean, look, 60 years ago, not even, maybe 50 years ago, and that was like, you don't even mention socialism, collectivism in America because that's just not who we are. We are fighting against those ideas. And now
And
those
yet,
ideas are coming back.
ironically enough, there were more societal socialist programs in America during that time than ever before.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Um, it's ironic. I think the media has done such a fantastic job of branding socialism as this Russian um, curse word almost.
Right.
It's to speak it is to almost give it life.
Yeah.
And there's definitely and we've talked this before at great length, but there's definitely a generational divide. Um, and
Yeah.
the comedic irony of it is that older generation enjoyed the benefits of socialism more so than any other generation.
And they didn't realize it.
No, and they didn't realize it because of media branding.
Right. And that's all it is. At a certain point, I've realized that a lot of what politics is just marketing.
Mm.
Like, that's it. For instance, I was talking to some friends online, and I might have said this in the last podcast. I honestly don't remember. My memory is horrible, and this quarantine has taken, like, I don't even know what day it is at this point. So I forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But the Republican Party, I feel, is more susceptible to allowing socialist ideas in than the Democrats at this point. And
well, the Republican Party, think about the things the Republican Party really pushes. Big military. That's socialism.
Yeah.
They're super pro police force. That's socialism. We are a socialist nation. We have always been a socialist nation. The roads you drive on were provided by socialism.
Right.
The police officer you seek to for protection is provided by socialism. The firefighter that puts out your oil fire, if his name isn't Anthony Stewart, then it was provided by socialism.
Yeah, that's true.
The community college you go to because your life is miserable and you yourself are miserable is provided by socialism.
So what you're saying, Quinn, is that misery is provided by socialism?
And here's another one for you. The church you attend on Sundays, the God that you get on your knees and genuflect and beg for forgiveness, please God, save me from my miserable existence, you are praying to a socialist God.
In what respect? We can't just pass by that. So what do you mean?
Beyond the fact that Jesus himself was a socialist, consider this. Your church is funded by what? Donations.
From who?
The clergy, the people involved, the men and women who go and sit in the pews. Your donation is a fund that is redistributed into the budget of what the church can spare.
Interesting. So, at that point, it begs the question, what is socialism then in this case? What is the definition that we are abiding by then?
Socialism is life.
What the fuck?
It's how do you define something that is a blanket over our society?
Okay,
that permeates in every aspect of our society. The only thing that holds it back is greed.
I think a good place to start then would be defining capitalism. So capitalism would be the mindset of businesses, right? Or the mindset in which, you know what? Fuck it. What are we doing with our lives? Let me. I have this shit. Let me use it. I'm just for the people that are not watching this episode with their eyeballs and just listening to it with their ears, I'm pulling out my phone like a smart person. I'm just gonna look up.
I would dispute that. There's this notion that capitalism is the free market. I would dispute that. There is no such thing as a free market.
Mm-hmm. So capitalism, and we'll get back to that point in a moment. An economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than the state.
Bam.
Okay, so that's capitalism. So if we're flipping it to social,
the state being the community, the collective.
The collective, yeah, not just like government.
Yeah.
A political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. So that's
how that sounds beautiful. That is the most kumbaya bullshit I've ever heard, and I love it. I need it. I want the rest of the world to jump on board, join hands, and pass it to the left. Now, it's beautiful.
Not to the right, to the left. And that goes perfectly into what my original point was, which is that the Republican Party would be more susceptible to socialism than the left, or not even the left, because the Democratic Party is not a left party, they're a center-right party. But I think that the Republican Party would be more susceptible to those ideas just because if you brand socialism with a religious twist, those people will not know the difference between they just want to rep the Republican red.
Yeah.
They don't care about ideas necessarily, other than they want their guns, and they don't want the government to tell them what to do. They just want the government to work for them. Generally speaking, that's what Republicans want. If the government is going to be around, they want the government to work for them. And I think those socialist ideas, the socialist ideas, I think, work perfectly into that idea of the government working for them. For instance, if a candidate in a future presidential election came up to the Republican Party and said this with a twang, I'm going to try to do. If they said, "Now listen here, I believe in Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ only, and what Jesus Christ believed in was health care for everybody, and that's what we're going to get for everybody, health care, because that's what Jesus would have wanted. Let me tell you. Can I get an amen, brother?" And boom, at that point, I feel like it's all branding. It's all branding. You're branding socialism with a Southern twist that conservatives have been using that sort of branding, that marketing for so long. I feel like, and the Republican Party doesn't go by, if you win the state, like if in the primary election, like this is how Donald Trump won the fucking primary. You win the state, you win all the delegates. You don't get partial delegates for what you win.
Yeah.
You get everything. Winner take all.
Republican Party does the primary right.
Yeah, they do. They abide by what the people want.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way socialism and actual left policy will get into American politics, is by infiltrating the Republican Party. Because we have to realize that the parties are not inherently right or inherently left in the Democratic Party's case, even though they're not left. They over the course of American history have flipped and have followed cultural patterns and societal patterns. Just like what I'm saying. There is a possibility that the Republican Party one day, maybe in our lifetime, could flip to being an actually left party. It's truth. That is the truth. That is possible. It's going to take a lot of work, but
especially, if you translate socialism through the word of God, feed the hungry, clothe the naked.
Exactly.
These are socialist philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's really it's at this point it's almost comedy. When Bernie Sanders dropped out, I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah, that was a sad day, man.
I mean, of course, my heart was broken.
Yeah.
I've been a staunch socialist. I won't even say democratic socialist. I've been a staunch socialist for damn near 12 years.
You have.
But
It's true. It is true.
so when Bernie Sanders dropped out, yeah, it was heartbreaking. But all I could do was laugh, because it was so transparent, so utterly and disgustingly transparent, that the Democratic establishment and the Wizard of Oz behind it all, Barack Hussein Obama, orchestrated what was his secession. He seceded to the Democratic establishment. Oh, such a bummer. Just to even mention Bernie Sanders and seceding in the same sentence.
Yeah.
It hurts.
It's true. He didn't have to drop out.
It's a Bernie burn.
It's true. He was just like like you said, he seceded. He didn't have to drop out. He could have taken this to convention and could have seen what happened. Now, was there a chance that he would get the nomination? Yes. But obviously it wasn't high. But I think there was a chance for him to get it. But he didn't want to see it through because of the pressure from the Democratic establishment, which he so, has famously built his entire campaign on going against, taking on. And, I think there are some things that we won't know for a couple decades about this campaign and like what actually went on. But I know for a fact that his people from his campaign, his advisors were trying to get him to be more aggressive against Joe Biden, go against his record instead of calling him my friend Joe and all this stuff. He got soft.
You're not friends.
Soft. He got soft.
You are competing for the most powerful position in the world.
But he wanted his campaign to be based on compassion, and compassion can only get you so far.
Yeah. And it's disgusting. Michelle Obama has propagated this ideal, they go low, we go high. No. It's they go low and the Democratic establishment goes behind your back and drives the knife between the ribs.
And then they paint the person who went. They paint the Bernie supporters as going low.
Yeah. Ridiculous. And yet they want our votes.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. How do you expect? Listen, that's the thing. Bernie Sanders built a campaign on transparency
and integrity
and principles, political principles, which I believe that's a big reason why people who have voted, who are staunch Bernie supporters like you and I, cannot fathom voting for Joe Biden out of principle. And that's what they don't get. Because a lot of people don't understand what principles even are in the political system. Like in politics, they're just like, I don't like Republicans, so I'm voting Democrat. I don't like Democrats, so I'm voting Republican. They don't think about, okay, what actually do I want to see change? Because that's one thing that I noticed and I realized by my time in Sweden. Things don't have to be this way in this country. They can be better. I think Americans are always called internationally that we're arrogant. We think that everything here is just like the best. We're America. We're the best. I go spend not even 3 months in another country and I realize, yeah, no, we're not. We do a lot of things great. We have a lot of great things here. But we can do better in a lot of things. And I think we have to take a step back and really realize, we can learn from our constituents abroad. We don't have to just focus and be like, no, we're America, so we're just going to look just at our country, at what we're doing, and look to this community of people across the nation in order to grow. I feel like there's a lot of models that we could maybe not copy, but take inspiration from across the entire world that could help our healthcare system, our judicial system, education system, our infrastructure. But no, we don't.
Education, I think, is paramount. With education, I think everything will follow.
Can you explain?
Well, I mean, naturally, you know, and other people have said this famously, Joe Rogan, you know, why wouldn't you want a more intelligent population? The more informed you are, which intelligence to a degree is the amount of information that you withhold, that you contain.
Yeah.
So the more informed you are, the better choices you can make, looking at the grand picture. The greatest problem with Americans is they can't see the forest for the trees. You know, they want to eat their cake and have it too, uh, as someone once famously said.
Yes. Somebody. And that's what's really annoying is people think that, oh, I have to pay $3,000 for an ambulance if I get sick and I can't drive myself and I have nobody else. I
Yeah.
guess that's just life. I have to not go to the doctors for 6 years because I know I'm going to have to pay an arm and a leg for it. So I'll just won't go and risk having something that could really hurt me and risk, getting even more
It's insane.
ill.
Do you see Joe Biden's proposal to lower the Medicaid age from 65 to 60? That's his olive branch.
To the Bernie camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That makes
It
no
was
sense.
4 years ago, Hillary Clinton offered to drop it to like 50 or something like that.
It needs
Hillary?
to be it needs to be 40, dude.
Not even. There needs to be no age restriction.
No, I agree, but if you're calling it an olive branch, you have to at least be like, all right, 40. That's where we're starting the negotiation. 40. It can't be, 65 is no, what? Stupid. Like, that's the thing. That's like I feel like the Democratic establishment looks at like the whole for like I would the socialist wing of the left, the actual left. They look at those people and they're just like, like little kids wanting a fucking like piece of candy. Like, here's a nickel. There you go. Here you go, kid.
You
Have a
know,
nickel. Go get your candy. Like, that's not gonna get me shit, brother. Like, what are you fucking?
there was one man some time ago who ran for a public seat in the city of Elk Grove, who I think saw this quite well when he said, "When students and seniors get together and are able to empathize and relate to each other, great
Yeah.
things will happen." And I'm paraphrasing. I'm
And who
paraphrasing, of course,
who are you
the
referring?
master, and I say that a bit cringy, uh, Greg Higley.
Who has been a guest on this podcast?
A great man. Self-made.
Self-made man. It's true.
Self-made. Say what
No
you want
small,
about the man. Self-made.
no small loans of $1 million or anything. True.
No.
Self-made, 100%.
No.
That is true. I think that you bring up a really good point in a way.
Metaphorically speaking.
In a way, I guess. I think what we could take away from that little Greg Higley campaign walk down memory lane is that people need to focus more on their local elections than they do now. This change institutionally in any party doesn't start from the top down. It starts from the bottom up. And that's what you're seeing in certain states. There's a Democratic socialist running against Mitch McConnell who's gained a lot of traction online. I forgot his name. But you're seeing that across the country where senators and House representatives are being challenged by people on the actual left. And that's promising because that's how you get changes, by people getting into the Senate, Congress, making a name for themselves there, then running for president. You don't get people just running for president unless you're Donald Trump, of course. He's the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Where you just run for president and then you figure everything else out. All that does is, yeah, you get a win, but you don't win the war. You win a battle, but you don't win the war.
Rob Stark.
It's the truth.
I think what I was metaphorically alluding into, and I think what Senor Higley masterfully said, spoke to the generational divide. And I think, voter polls reflect that. Rather shamefully, I'd say our generation tends to not show up, but those who did showed up, and for Bernie Sanders tend to be of a certain age demographic.
Yeah.
Those who voted for Joe Biden tend to be of a certain age demographic.
Bubba Joe.
The seniors and the students.
It's
And,
true.
And what it's going to prove is disastrous. My prediction for 2020 is Donald Trump is going to actually destroy and embarrass Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe. Yeah.
Both on the public stage in the debates and in the polls. To be clear, they're not debating anything. It's a slam fest. And Donald Trump is going to slam him. He's going to hit him hard. He's going to call him Sleepy Joe. He's going to, talk about how Joe Biden's greatest foe is complete sentences. And, don't be surprised if Donald Trump marches Tara Reid out there like he did with the Bill Clinton accusers in front of Hillary Clinton. And he points that out and says, what happened with this lady?
Yeah, he goes straight.
Straight for the throat, man.
Yeah, straight for the throat. Yeah.
And in talking briefly about this, Tara Reid, Joe Biden thing, I've been tracking it for the last couple of days, and I first saw it reported in The Hill, and I've seen JRE talk about it. I've seen TYT now talk about it.
The Young Turks, for everybody who doesn't know who they are.
Yeah, and then I saw Fox News, Sean Hannity report on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've yet to see CNN and MSNBC report on it.
They already, because you already know how. You already know.
You already know what it is. Man. They're in the bag.
It's true. It's true. They are in the bag. They've been in the bag for a long time. And that's another issue with this whole political system, is that you have media outlets who are already in bed with the corporations, okay, not with the political parties, just because the political parties have paid the media outlets. No, the media outlets are owned by the same people who pay money to the Democratic and Republican parties. That's the loophole. The middlemen are the corporations. That's why the corporations are able to control the narrative against Bernie and against Trump, while Trump was not the guy in the Republican Party at the time, when he was still trying to become president in 2016. You saw a ton of pieces. Nobody thought he was going to win. Everybody thought he was a joke until it wasn't a joke. And then the political establishment on the right had no choice but to accept Donald Trump. They had no choice. And you saw that the Democrats put up these restrictions. In 2016, they changed them a little bit, but they still had restrictions this time around in 2020 against Bernie Sanders to limit grassroots, campaigns. Generally, that's what the laws, and the rules and restrictions were for, to limit grassroots people to actually make any sort of change or get into political office, at least the presidency. So, yeah, man, it's super, it's transparent now.
Disgustingly so.
But I know I've been talking for a little bit. I want to let you get a word in, but I do want to say, my parents. Now this is so totally anecdotal. I'm not saying this means anything. All I'm saying is my parents were very on the fence of Bernie Sanders for a long time.
The kitty's titties?
The kitty's titties. Ruben Alvarado was on the fence. He didn't really like Bernie Sanders because he's from the era, of where socialism,
Let us all enjoy the warm milk, Ruben. We're all thirsty out here.
Yeah, so my dad was very on the fence. My mom was on the fence too, less, to a lesser extent, but she was still iffy. They have been exposed in the past, 2 years, 3 years maybe, to a lot more independent media that I've shown them that just has come up on their feed on YouTube. They've done more research for themselves. And over the course from 2016 to now, both of them supported Bernie Sanders.
Mm.
They're not socialists. They're not. But the thing that did it was the independent interviews from, Joe Rogan and others that Bernie Sanders did, were long form interviews where you're able to actually hear what the candidate has to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very beneficial for candidates who are trying to get to those older folks who they see the issues with the right, they see the issues with the left, and they're tired of it. Well, the left, in quotes. Um, I think it's important that independent media is becoming more and more of a voice in the American electorate. So
yeah, no, I would agree with that. And there's two things I would be remiss if I didn't mention. Well, while we're talking politics, one, Elizabeth Warren, you have cost this country greatly, and you have cost your own base greatly. You should be ashamed, not only for your grossly exaggerated genealogy that got you into Harvard, uh, but also for the fact that you lack all sense of pragmatic competence. You should have dropped out of the race when it was clear you stood no chance of winning anything. And that was clear very early on. All you did was split the progressive vote. Congratulations.
especially after Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar dropped out on Bloody Monday, as I call it. When they dropped out, that should have been the cue for Elizabeth Warren if she was really a progressive.
She's not a progressive. She's a coward. She's a coward.
Oh, she's an opportunist. That's who she is. She sees, okay, this is her perspective. This is why she became a Democrat in 91. I see the tides of this political landscape changing, and I'm going to follow it. So that's why she adopted a lot of Bernie Sanders policies in 2016.
Much how Donald Trump saw the political landscape and said, oh, if I become a Republican, I could convince these fucking morons to vote me to become president.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump had been a Democrat his entire life up to about 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't all Elizabeth Warren is she's smart enough to see the changes and the trends of politics. And she saw, okay, Bernie Sanders may not win this election. He may not win the next one, but I want to be on the right side of history and at least be somewhat aligned in his ideology. And but I don't want to go with the full extent to get alienated by the establishment. So she wants to play the middle ground. She wants to be right in that sweet spot to where if something sweet from the establishment comes along, she'll take it. But, if Bernie Sanders wins and she helps him out, oh, well, why? I'm here, VP, huh? VP, let me, VP, so it's all, she's a politician. That's what politics is. And, she is at this moment, I'd say the grossest example of what a politician is, but she is a politician. And that's kind of the name of the game, unfortunately.
And, if Joe Biden has done one thing right this entire year, and I do concede that it was rather remarkable. In fact, I would argue is one of the greatest political dupes of my lifetime, how he somehow managed to convince the African American community he gives a shit about him.
In what ways?
But one need only to look at Joe Biden's record to see Joe Biden got no love for any minority. Speaking as a minority to another minority.
Yeah, yeah. You look at his record.
He voted to keep buses segregated. He completely allowed Anita Hill to be shamed and embarrassed on a public national stage as she had the courage to, face her accuser. Joe Biden voted against Social Security a multitude of times. He is against Medicare for all. He is against free public education. These are policies that would benefit minority communities more so than anything. And yet he stands in the way of them. Why is that? I don't know. I'm not going to go out there and say Joe Biden's a racist. But I'm also not going to say he doesn't smell funny. How Joe Biden earned the trust of the African American community is completely beyond me. I would hate to make the assumption that it's because he has a black biracial friend known as Barack Obama. But
yeah,
I mean, what are we left to assume? What would be your gauge on that?
Well, you're right with everything you're saying. I can't really disagree. At this point, I feel like, when it came down to either Bernie Sanders or Biden, and you're a person, maybe an older person who's African American, and you look at Donald Trump and we're not desperately, but you're wanting there to be another Obama just from a cultural standpoint. And you look at Bernie Sanders and you look at Biden, what's the closest one to that Obama type of candidate from a cultural standpoint? It's Joe Biden. I mean, he was the VP.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because if I remember correctly, now I was like, I was like fucking 11 at this point in my life. So I could definitely be misremembering. And if I am, someone please correct me. DM the Closers Podcast on Instagram at the Closers Podcast. Have to plug that real quick. But if I remember correctly, Joe Biden becoming the VP or being selected by Obama was the concession to the Democratic establishment at that time. Because Joe Biden was a very prominent member and still is of the Democratic establishment. So Obama made the choice to make him the VP. Get more votes.
I think Obama chose Joe Biden because he made white people feel comfortable.
That is true.
Quite frankly.
I agree.
I think it was literally just a way to hedge his bets.
Yeah.
And I find it rather stunning that, when you compare Joe Biden's civil rights record to Bernie Sanders, how on earth he earned the trust of the African American community.
That's true. It makes no sense. Bernie Sanders was in the trenches during the whole civil rights movement. He was there on the front lines. And the funny thing is, and this is probably going to be one of the last things I say on this whole thing, this whole topic, because we have some other things to get to. We're running out of time a little bit. But you look at Bernie Sanders and what he has said in his past two campaigns, and you look back and what he was saying in the 70s, it's the same thing.
Yeah. That's called integrity, folks. That's called integrity, and that's what you want out of your leaders.
Apparently they don't.
So, yeah, we stand corrected in we exist in some, millennial socialist bubble, apparently.
Apparently, yeah, where integrity is above profit. But, this is like going back to my Swedish experience. This is America. And in America, at the end of the day, it's about profit. It'll always be that unless we get change from the ground up. Yeah. Which I think that concludes what I have to say. If you have anything else to say, I urge you to do that because we're gonna. I want to say something after about a different topic.
No, it's depressing. Honest to God, it's depressing.
It is depressing, and I think we're depressed enough. We're in the quarantine. We have to vote for either Trump or Biden. Let's talk about something a little bit more happy, shall we? We have an announcement. I have an announcement to make about the show, which I believe, Quinn, you already know what I'm talking about. But we're adding another host and another show to the Closers Podcast. It's not becoming the Closers Podcast. I know it is going to change very soon. What do I mean by that? Well, Quinn Kalani, none other than Quinn Kalani, the other original closer, is joining the show and is going to be doing his own podcast on the Closers. So the Closers podcast is now going to have two hosts, me and Quinn, and we're going to be interviewing people generally on Wednesdays. At least that's when the episode will go up. He's going to have his own show on Monday, on most Mondays, called Hang 10 with Quinn Kalani. More info will be available soon. And then closing out the week will be my personal little baby show where I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing on closing out the weeks. I'm bringing those back in a very, very limited capacity. There might be some weeks where I won't have a closing out the week, but hopefully most will. And yeah, so we're going to go to basically 3 shows a week. We're at the Closers podcast, main show being on Wednesdays, where we interview somebody, maybe the first 30 minutes of the show. We have a break, and then we go into maybe 30 minutes of me and Quinn jawing it up, doing a variety pod. And then, so congratulations, Quinn. I'm really excited that you're joining, and thank you for wanting to even do it. I'm really excited for the future of the show. It was looking a little weird there for a second for the past couple months, but I'm excited about the trajectory, and it honestly will help me out because last season was very stressful just doing it all on my own. So I'm very excited to bring you on board, and there's nobody better. So,
well, I'm very honored. It's a huge blessing. It almost feels like the fates have brought us to this point. You know, I know you're gonna put the show on hold for a bit, you know, because it's, you know, Sweden demanded it. It demanded all of your attention, and rightfully so. It was a grand adventure. Unfortunately, you know, the gods had different plans, but
yeah.
But you know, even in shit, there is gold to mine, and we believe that we've struck something.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hang 10 with myself, Quinn Kalani, to be very much in the same ilk as closing out the week. You know, a short diatribe of a variety of topics that could range from film, literature, comic books, everyday life. You know, just something that's been weighing on me, and I'm very excited to get into it. I'm very excited to express this side of myself. I'm excited for the challenge of it. And man, I'm so stoked. I'm so honored, of course, Marco, that you've brought me on in this capacity. And I'm very excited for things coming up.
Sweet, man. That sounds really awesome. And I'm really excited to hear the first show. When we know more and we figure some stuff out behind the scenes, then we will announce it officially on the Closers Podcast Instagram account and the Facebook page and all those places. But yeah, if you are not following the Closers Podcast account and you are interested to know more information on the future of the show, which is looking very bright, as I said, please follow us at the Closers Podcast on Instagram and on Facebook at Closers Podcast. That's our Facebook page. But yeah, like I said, very excited, and you will know more once we know as well. But right now it's looking like hopefully early to mid-May is when we will start that format. So we're already working behind the scenes on some stuff. So it's really, really exciting. Now that we got that announcement out of the way, which I've been trying to get to the entire time, let's go to a topic that you and I both love. This is to bring some normalcy to everything. The NFL is having a draft next week.
This is almost as depressing as freaking politics. This is almost as depressing. You know, and in fact,
for who? For me?
Myself.
Or for you? Well, yeah, for you. For me, it's I'm pretty excited. This is like the only thing I have in my life to look to and be like, you know, I'm right now. This is pretty exciting. I'm a little pumped. Jeez. But I can tell if this is the first time you're ever listening to a podcast with me and Quinn, or this is your first Closers podcast, you will not know this. But so this is why I'm saying it. Quinn Kalani is a Los Angeles Rams fan. Let's break down what has happened with the Rams in the past year, because there's a lot that has happened that is it's pretty hard to describe and to really see the fall of Rome. If you could even call it Rome. This was like what? Like I don't even know. This was I don't
the fall of Dubuque, Iowa. This has been absolutely and utterly ridiculous and shameful. First of all, our treatment of Todd Gurley this past year has been ridiculous. Now, asterisk, we don't know as a fan base to what extent his knees are damaged. You know, for a long time, rumor has been arthritis is kind of limiting what he can do. But what Todd Gurley has meant to this franchise, 5 good hard years. 2 years ago, he was the offensive player of the year.
That is true.
Nearly 2 years ago. And I can't help but feel that if we hadn't put so much stock into Jared Goff and maybe we had ran a more traditional offense, that Todd Gurley would have had another 1,000-yard season. Who's to say? He didn't get the carries to justify either way.
Yeah.
And now we've lost our offense. Clearly our offensive team captain, a strong leader in our fan base and our community, and the fulcrum of our offense. No one's going to stack the box now. We're all putting it on Jared Goff's shoulders. His weak, small Bay Area shoulders. Woo! Not only that, we get rid of Brandon Cooks.
For peanuts.
Why? Why? Because of the concussions? And yeah, for peanuts. The capital we got back was a second round pick, I believe.
Yeah.
Second or third. Ridiculous.
I believe it was a second round pick that the Texans got back from the Arizona Cardinals after they traded DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
So you guys got the Cardinals second round pick, I believe.
So our receiving core essentially consists of Robert Woods and 2 slot receivers. Arguably, I think the best slot receiver in the game, Cooper Kupp, and Josh Reynolds, who's an adequate receiver.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he's the split end or the flanker. He's a slot receiver. So now what are we going to use one of our draft picks on another receiver when we should be using it on our offensive line? Stellar.
You guys also re-signed Andrew Whitworth, old man Whitworth.
That was the one lone move this offseason that I commend. Andrew Whitworth he's a team captain. He's a great leader in the community, and he provides veteran leadership. He's on his way out. Undoubtedly, he's on his way out. But it's hard to replace, that sort of veteran leadership. You need him in the locker room. He is great for the locker room. But
I agree.
Even on the defense, we've made bad moves. We let Clay Matthews walk. Clay Matthews was on his way to a double sack season. He was having his best season last year that he had in the last 3. Granted, he had injury woes, but he was balling. And he's an LA guy. He's a USC guy.
It's true. He's a USC guy.
But no, let's one and done him. The problem with the Los Angeles Rams the past 2 years is that they've been pretending they're the Los Angeles Lakers, and you can't play football in the off season like it's basketball. It doesn't work like that. You build your team through the draft. This is a tale as old as time.
They try to get flashy by trading Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. They kind of went all in. They went all in.
They went all in on 2 years. And now where did it set us back? The Cardinals have only gotten better. The Niners have substantially gotten better. The Seahawks, I shall not mention. But, it's just, It's ridiculous. It's shameful,
Yep. And we didn't even mention the uniforms and the logos.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This logo was designed by a 7th grader with cerebral palsy. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. We've had great logos in the past. Why not just go to the classic ram skull?
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect. It would have been beautiful. And it would have been reflective of clearly, it would have been symbolic of what is our best player, who is, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the league, Aaron Donald. But no. Let's not do that.
It is a menacing logo.
Let us, as the Los Angeles Rams, do our best to become the New York Jets of the West Coast.
Yeah. But now at this point, the franchise has bet on McVay and Goff.
I love McVay.
You're still a believer in McVay because he's made all these moves. Are you still a believer in McVay? That's my biggest question.
I'm a believer in McVay as his offensive acumen and his play calling ability. But our front office, man, someone needs to get the pocketbook out of Les Snead's hands. He's great with draft day trades. He's a master at draft day trades. But holy shit, these piss poor contracts that we have signed.
These trades.
Ridiculous. The Los Angeles Lakers, man. I mean,
you guys didn't need Jalen Ramsey.
Everything that I loved about the Rams, I realize, I don't want to say that the culture that I loved died when it left St. Louis, but there has been a poisoning. And this happens with the Southern California, man, those fucking people. They tend to, they tend with their superficial lives, their fake lives, they just ooze, poison and superficiality. Let's just throw money at the problems. No, wrong. And until we get back into, until the Deacon Jones mind frame, the Marshall Faulk mind frame, the Kurt Warner mind frame, the Isaac Bruce, who is finally in the Hall of Fame, that has been a beacon of joy in my life that the Reverend Isaac Bruce has gotten his due. Yeah. Until we get back to that frame of mind, man, I'm very concerned about our future.
It is concerning. I have not agreed with any that has been made ever since Jared Goff. I believe it was downhill from there. But
Sleepy Jared,
bro. He is the Joe Biden of the NFL. Just
God.
No reason for him to be in the positions he's at, but yet he's there. So everyone's just got to be like, well, I guess. At least, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. You're a bigger Rams fan, obviously. You're a Rams fan, but I must say, if that ever changes, there's a new team that just moved. My team, the Las Vegas Raiders, formerly the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, are who would have thought they would be in a more positive position than the Rams, given 2 years ago how on opening night, Monday Night Football, Los Angeles Rams versus the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. I was there, and I was sitting next to Jared Goff's dad, and the whole time he was just smirking because the Raiders got lit up by the Rams. And I thought, well, this is it, the dynasty. It's going to be the Rams against the Patriots or the Chiefs for the next 5-6 years. And now we're looking at an Oakland or a Las Vegas Raiders team that could very well be better than the Rams this season.
Only if you guys fully invest in the pride of Hawaii himself, Marcus Mariota. He will take you to the Super Bowl. And him alone. Derek Carr has got to go. He's not a grinder.
I don't know about that. I think Mariota will definitely get a chance. He signed big money. He signed big money to be the backup. which I agree with. You need a good backup in order to win in the NFL nowadays. You cannot rely solely on your starter because he could get hurt. And then who you got? So I like the move, getting Mariota. He will get a chance in camp, if there is a camp, to start. But I see the Mariota signing as a cultural signing, much as you see the Whitworth signing. Mariota is a famously great teammate.
Outstanding locker room guy. Even
now, this is something I heard on, I forgot the guy's name, but there's a sports podcast I listen to. It's an ESPN podcast. It's like the follow-up podcast to First Take. Like, they have somebody who's a Raiders fan, follow up and like recap the show and like comment on it. Now, what he said on his show that I listened to yesterday is that Marcus Mariota, after getting benched in Tennessee, the team he was drafted by to be their franchise guy, for Ryan Tannehill, who had an very mediocre showing in Miami, after getting benched and replaced by Ryan Tannehill, he went up to the coaching staff and said, "Hey, let me be the practice team's quarterback so we can run simulations, a simulated offense of the Ravens because we're playing them in like a week." That's a role for like a guy who gets paid like fucking like $20K a year.
Yeah.
That's a quarterback that's on the
living wage.
Not even a living wage. That guy gets paid nothing. And Mariota was like, "Let me run that. Let me be that role because I know I fit the best skill wise." That's the guy that the Raiders got. Somebody who's going to put the team first, somebody who wants to make everybody better around him, even if he's not the best player. So,
I mean, the offense for the Silver State Raiders will continue to operate through Josh Jacobs. Undoubtedly, it has to. He's too good. He's the franchise tailback.
Yeah, we have no choice. We have to run our offense through him, but I would not be mad. And now no one's talked about this. Everyone thinks, "Oh, we have Josh Jacobs, so therefore we're good at running back." No. If the Todd Gurley saga in LA has taught us anything, if the Alvin Kamara saga in New Orleans has taught us anything, is you need two great running backs now to be a great offense. You need a Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
You need even when Tevin Coleman was balling a couple years ago with what's his name? Devonta Freeman. You need the yin to the yang in order to really make any substantial footing in the NFL. I mean, even look at Lamar Jackson. You consider him, I mean, he ran for a lot of yards last season. So if you take him, Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram.
Yeah. 1-2 punch. You got to have a 1-2 punch.
You got to have that 1-2. Or you're going to run Josh Jacobs into the ground. And I don't want that. It's a tragedy, man. It's a tragedy what happened to Gurley. It's a tragedy what would happen to Josh Jacobs if they keep running him like they did last season. This dude had a broken arm or a broken rib or something, and he was playing through it through the whole season.
Yeah.
We can't have him do that again. That's just not fair.
The two-back system has essentially rendered the fullback position useless. I remember back in the day, a former Gruden grinder, Mike Alstott, is a baller fullback who could carry the rock like it was no one's business. He was the 1-2 punch to Warwick Dunn, who was, the tailback for Tampa Bay at the time.
Exactly. And that's what the Raiders need. So I would not be mad if the Raiders went ahead and drafted another running back. In maybe not the first round or the second or even the third, but just get another one in there. Try to develop somebody else.
Who could Jared McKinnon.
Yeah. Yeah,
Deion Lewis.
a more pass catcher, a pass catcher, somebody
Yeah.
who can yeah, because Jacob, they try to get Jacobs into that pass catching role, but that's just not who he is. Don't
You need
make the
that.
same mistake that they made with Amari Cooper and try to fit a square peg in a round hole. You don't want to
Yeah.
do it. You can't do it.
You need a check down guy, and you need a guy in the flats that gives your quarterback another option, especially a quarterback like Mariota or Carr. That's they're not real intermediate guys. They're either, they're deep range or they're check downs.
Yep. And it just goes to show you that now in the NFL you need depth. I mean, look at New Orleans last season. They were playing three quarterbacks a game. In some plays most of the time was Breeze, but you would throw Bridgewater out there for a couple plays to mix it up. You throw Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
You just mix it up. Why not? That's where the league is going. You need to have variety in every position. So you can't just stay put at running back. Take the best players available. And if the best player is a receiver, damn, I'll take that. I'll take that too. But um, I think a lot of Raiders fans are hoping for a receiver with the first pick. I am one of those fans. However, I will accept if we get another position as long as they're the best player on the board. So that's my position for the draft. I'm very excited for it, and I really hope it's enjoyable because it's going to be a different draft given the situation.
Let me ask you this. Has the lack of live sports been driving you insane?
Yeah. I haven't had live sports the entire year basically because I was in Sweden and I was asleep. I've been asleep for most of them. I was barely able to watch the Super Bowl, and even that was a European stream. So it was the most annoying game of football I've ever seen in my life. Because even the Europeans I was watching it with got pissed because there was just constant commercials and we couldn't watch any of the commercials because it was a European stream.
Wow.
So we were just watching the same like shitty what's that one service called? DAZN. Yeah. We were watching the same shitty DAZN commercial.
Canelo Alvarez, DAZN.
Basically, it's just constant fucking DAZN commercials. And then, here's Patrick Mahomes. Boom. All right, timeout. And then just fucking commercials. So it was just, I haven't seen an actual sporting event that's been enjoyable since like the last time I saw the Raiders win a game. It's been a while and I miss it a lot. So it's taken the toll on my mental health a little bit because I've relied on sports in order to kind of escape from things and just like have something to talk about with my dad and with like my mom. Just people in general. Now that's gone, so it is tough because I'm a big sports fan. I'm a sports guy, and I'm assuming it's the same for you. It's been a little difficult, I can imagine.
To a lesser extent, I'm not as my sports palette isn't as wide ranging as yours, but it has been difficult. I am accustomed to a weekly fight night. And it's been an adjustment. Granted, I would prefer that the fighters involved in the UFC remain safe. But yeah, it's been kind of a bummer that there's been no fight content for like damn near 2 months now. Yeah. And this Saturday was supposed to be UFC 249, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson for, in what was my opinion, the UFC lightweight title unification bout. Of course, Tony Ferguson is, in my opinion, still the interim lightweight champion, something he had earned a couple years ago that was unjustly taken away from him. And of course, Khabib is who Khabib is. We all know how gnarly Khabib is. But man, yeah, such a bummer. 5 times they've tried to make this fight now, and 5 times it's fallen through. Will we ever get to see what is and what will be in my opinion, the greatest lightweight bout in the history of combat sports? Who the fuck knows? So
yeah. It sucks.
I would be remiss. We would both be remiss as sons from the bosom of Northern California, under the shadow of the Sierra Nevadas, if we did not give a birthday shout out, a salute to the general of the Nick Diaz Army, Nathan Diaz. Happy 35th birthday to Nathan Diaz. Salute the NorCal all natural ninja himself.
Yep. Got to salute. Birthday shout out to the boy himself. For sure. Also, birthday shout out. We're recording this on Thursday, the 16th. Yesterday was a fellow closer's birthday. I'm talking about Joey the Ass Man Norris. Haven't heard that name in a while, but got to give a quick birthday shout out to him. Happy birthday. Hope it was a great one if you're listening. So, yeah, got to make sure.
Yeah. There's a joke somewhere about someone giving Joey some money, but we won't go there.
Yeah, we'll just leave. We'll just drop it. But yeah, sports really sucks. Hoping that there will be some sort of live sports at some point. I'll take anything at this point. I've tried to get into esports. Not really my thing. I'm sorry. I've tried. I really tried, bro, but I just cannot do it.
I'm getting into golf. I think that's gonna be
golf.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get into golf. Hopefully, I can set something up with a Closers podcast alum, Anthony Stewart. Hopefully, we can.
Yeah, Sir Anthony Stewart.
Sir Anthony Stewart. Hopefully, we could set something up, hit some clubs. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, is hit the drive lingo. I think they say, oh, we got to hit the driving range. I think that's the go-to phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand a single thing about golf, and I've spent my life ridiculing it. Back in the day when I lived in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, I would drive down I don't know, I can't remember the name of the road. I'll say Cox Mill. I was driving down Cox Mill Road, and the high school golf team would, they'd be practicing their swing. I was the asshole that would honk my horn as I drove past. So I've become indoctrinated. The lack of live sports has indoctrinated me into the country club lifestyle.
That's cool.
It's all shrimp and 9 irons for me now, baby.
Nice. Well, let's we have about maybe 6 more minutes left until we're going to wrap up. But before that, let's just give one recommendation, whether it's a movie, a food, a beverage, a music artist, something for people to check out during this quarantine if they're so inclined to listen to our recommendations. So I will allow you to go first if you would like, or I'll go first if you would prefer me to.
Sure.
Give you some more time.
I'll go first. There was a program that I watched. It's currently available on Netflix. It is called Manhunt Unabomber, and it details the capture of one Ted Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber. He's quite famous here in the Northern California area, Sacramento and San Francisco. What is disclosed in this series, and something that I learned upon further research, and something I'll discuss further down the road, is Ted Kaczynski is one of the most tragic figures in American history.
Wow.
It's incredibly sorrowful. Sorrowful. It's somber. It's incredibly somber. They say there's no greater waste than wasted talent. Man. And, you don't want to go out on a limb and say, oh, I sympathize with the Unabomber. But some things you find out, that this man had to endure in the 60s at the hands of the CIA, Project MK Ultra. I won't disclose too much, but it's currently available on Netflix. Stars Paul Bettany, of course, of Avengers fame and of A Knight's Tale, and Sam Worthington of the Avatar franchise. Excellent series. 8 episodes. Sort of a true crime series. Excellent. I can't recommend it enough. Check it out. Free on Netflix.
Perfect. Thank you for that recommendation, Quinn. And well, mine, Tiger King. I'm just kidding. No, fuck that. Fuck Tiger King. It's a great documentary really well done, but I just hate the people on that show. They disgust. So Quinn went film or a TV show. I'm going a beverage. Pabst Blue Ribbon, 6.5 extra alcohol. Now look, I'm not saying it's great beer. Is it great beer? No, it's not really not that awesome. But it's this black can. It's a little bit heavier than your normal PBR. I prefer this beer personally just because, look, it's my brand. It's what I can afford at the moment with my Trump check. So if you're on a budget and you're looking for something maybe not great quality, but not bad quality, not super expensive and not piss poor natty light price, this is your beer right here. So I love Pabst Blue Ribbon. It's very good, and it's actually not that bad. If you pour it out of the can into a glass, it's prime. But if you leave it in the can, you get kind of a metallic-y taste. It's a little weird that you get usually when you drink beer out of a can.
Marco, if I may, would you say that Pabst Blue Ribbon is AA approved?
Pabst Blue Ribbon is AA approved. I would say, yes.
You right.
You damn right. It's true. I miss AA. Hopefully he's listening, and if so, hello AA. We miss you back on the mainland.
For Christ's sake, stay safe.
Yeah, please stay safe. Everybody out there, please stay safe.
Yeah.
Well, I think we reached about that time. Is there anything else you want to say, Quinn, before I wrap it up?
Nope. Awesome to be back on the program. Awesome, looking so much forward to the future. I think we got great things planned for you guys. I'm excited, and I'm excited to see what happens.
I'm excited too, man. And the quality of the shows will get better right now. We are just kind of figuring things out. So that's why this episode may be a little bit, the audio quality may not be as good, but we're figuring it out. Things will get better over time. Thank you for sticking with us. And we will be back soon next week. We're going to have another guest who has once been on the show. Who will that be? You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. If you want to find out, though, before anybody else, follow us on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, on Facebook at Closers Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which we are being more active on because we're posting these videos for you guys. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell down below as well from the video so you get notifications every time we post a video. It helps the channel out a lot. It helps the show out a lot. And without any further ado, we will bid you an adieu. Take care.